You're not here to escape your darkness. You're here to master it. Right? The world teaches you that light is good and dark is bad. That your fears, your flaws, your past mistakes, that they're things to overcome and hide from. But what if they've got it backwards? What if your darkness isn't the enemy, but your training ground? Right? Think of every great Jedi, every warrior, every mystic. They didn't become powerful by choosing only light. They became powerful by learning to stand in both the light and the dark without collapsing into either. Okay, because the reality is, the more you hold the light, the deeper your shadow becomes. And unless you learn to integrate that shadow, it will run your life in the background, quietly sabotaging everything that you try and build. In today's video, I'm going to share with you the path back to wholeness, a way to face that part of yourself you've been afraid to look at. Not to judge it, not to fix it, but to understand its role in your evolution. And then I'll give you a step-by-step framework to put it into your everyday life. And we'll explore this through the lens of psychology, spirituality, neuroscience, and the hero's journey. Because when you stop splitting yourself in two, when you stop labeling parts of yourself as wrong, you unlock a level of power most people never ever get to. And you don't become a true Jedi by choosing only light. You become a Jedi by mastering both the light and the dark. Because there was a time in my life when I thought, well, my goal was to become some perfect version of myself, healed, enlightened, untouched by pain, anger, or fear. I thought if I could just fix all the darkness inside of me, I'd finally be free. So I tried everything. Read every book, went to every training, masterclass, meditated for hours, journaled my traumas, said the affirmations till the cows came home, visualized the light. But the truth was, I was still carrying shame, still holding rage, still reacting to life through old pain. And it scared the shit out of me. Because I thought, if I still feel this, then maybe I am broken. Maybe I will never ever be free. And it wasn't until I hit another rock bottom, another low, right? A moment I thought I had outgrown, that something finally cracked. And I realized the darkness I was trying to escape was actually where the gold was. It was never about killing the shadow. It was about turning towards it. Right? And as the memory that stands out to me, I was in the middle of an argument with someone, I'm not mentioning them, but I deeply love them. Right? And I felt this rising, fire in me. And it wasn't frustration, but it was pure raw anger. And it was like old, deep, right? And not even fully about them. And for the first time, instead of suppressing it or just what I would normally do is explode, I sat with it and I asked what it wanted, right? What it was trying to protect. And what came through was a wave of grief. The little boy in me who had felt powerless, unseen, unheard, right? The protector who had to get loud because no one listened to his pain, right? And that day changed me. Not because I got rid of that part of me, but because I finally understood it. And when I realized what most people never do is you don't transcend the darkness by rising above it. You transcend it by integrating it, right? And you've probably heard this before. The light can't exist without the dark. But too often we interpret that as a poetic metaphor, not a literal framework for mastering reality. But if you study the great spiritual traditions, the ancient Stoics, modern psychology, and even, cutting edge neuroscience, they all point to the same truth. You cannot evolve without confronting your shadow. Right? And Carl Jung said it. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Right? In psychological terms, the shadow is a part of yourself that you've rejected, denied, or suppressed. And this is often since childhood. It holds the anger that you weren't allowed to express, the ambition that you were told was too much, the grief that you never gave yourself permission to feel. And when you try to stay positive with all just love and light, or bypass the dark, you actually strengthen its hold on you. Okay, the energy of suppression is so powerful. It creates that internal friction, emotional exhaustion, and often explosive behaviour that seems to come out of just nowhere. Right? And this in the spiritual teachings from Christianity to Buddhism to Tao, there's a repeated truth, right? Transformation requires integration, right? When Christ 40 days in the wilderness, Buddha's encounter under the Bondi tree, right? They weren't fighting darkness, right? They were facing it, integrating it, seeing through it, not to conquer it, but to transcend it. Right, and as the Gospel of Thomas says, if you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. Right? If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you. Right? And even if you look at Stoicism, right, the Stoics taught that emotion isn't the problem, it's the unconscious reaction that's the issue. Right? Marcus Aurelius, he wrote many great things, but he wrote, if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, it's but to you, your estimate of it. Right? And this you have the power to revoke at any time. So for the Stoics, the way to master life was to master your response. Okay? And you can't master your response if you're a stranger to your emotional world. Right? And Seneca even went further. No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself. Right? Pain is the forge where your character is shaped. The dark isn't your enemy, it's your training ground. Right? And if you look at it from the scientific lens, right, avoidance of the dark literally means it's shrinking the brain's capacity to deal with reality. When you habitually avoid discomfort, your amygdala, which is your fear center, grows in sensitivity. Your prefrontal cortex is responsible for your focus, your self-awareness, and your long-term decision-making. That gets overridden. This is why people feel stuck in loops of reactivity, avoidance, self-sabotage. But when you turn towards your fear, when you bring conscious awareness to the shadow, the brain begins to rewire. Neuroplasticity takes over. New emotional resilience circuits form. And your identity will then evolve. So whether you approach this as a mystic, a stoic, a psychologist, a scientist, the message is the same. To become a true Jedi, you don't banish the darkness, you integrate it, you train with it. You let it sharpen your awareness, not shut down your spirit. Okay, so how do we master this? Right, we've got a step-by-step framework here. Okay, and this isn't just theory. Integration can be practiced. Right, it's not about perfection. It's about learning how to navigate life with awareness and power. Right, so the first step here, and you can use this process and framework again and again. Right, so the first step is always awareness. Okay, so you ask yourself, who am I being right now? So you're witnessing the role that you're playing. Is this a conscious version of me? Or am I acting from an old wound, a fear, or a need for validation? This isn't about self-judgment. This is about self-honesty. When you find yourself reacting, snapping at your partner, procrastinating on your purpose, numbing out with distraction, pause, zoom out, become the observer, because you can't change what you're not willing to witness. Right? When you do this activates your prefrontal cortex, right? The part of your brain responsible for conscious choice. Right? So instead of letting your limbic system, which is your emotional autopilot, just run the show. Okay? And then the second step is befriend the shadow, right? Don't battle it. And this is where most people fall short. They try to get rid of the fear, kill the ego, suppress the anger. But everything you reject gains power over you in the unconscious. So integration means turning towards the part of you that is scared, unworthy, or enraged and saying, listen, I see you and I choose differently now. Okay, you don't need to heal every single wound before you move forward. You just need to stop being afraid of the part of you that's hurt. Right? And as Rumi says, the wound is the place where the light enters. Right? And, Marcus Aurelius, he didn't try to feel good all the time. He trained himself to respond wisely, even when he felt rage or fear. And he wrote, you have power over your mind, not side events. Realize this and you will find the strength. Okay, number 3, right? Act as the integrated self, even if you don't feel ready. This is where the transformation happens, right? The real Jedi isn't fearless. They've just made peace with the fear and choose to act anyway. So ask yourself, what would the integrated me do right now? If I trusted both my light and my shadow, what action would I take? If I believed this experience was here to train me, not to punish me, how would I show up? And you can do this with anything in life. Okay, it's about taking the action, taking on the identity of the man you wish to become. Okay, then you move, you speak the truth, you set the boundary, you take the leap. Okay, do it with the fear, with the doubt, not in denial of it. And every time you take action which is aligned with your higher self, despite the discomfort, you lay new neural pathways. You train your nervous system for courage. You become neurologically familiar with becoming powerful. And see, over time, courage will become your default. Clarity becomes your baseline. And the shadow becomes your ally, not your sabotager. Okay? And let's make this real. Because if you just consume this and just go along and nod your head, nothing changes. But if you engage, if you pause and reflect, that's where the shift begins. Okay, so let me ask you this. Where in your life are you pretending to be only all light? Okay, where are you trying to stay spiritual, positive, or peaceful while silently suppressing your anger, your sadness, those darker instincts? Okay, what have you been running from inside yourself that might actually be your greatest teacher? That fear that you keep avoiding, the part of you that sabotages or lashes out. What if instead of banishing it, you welcome it in with curiosity? Right? If you stopped fighting your shadow and start listening to it, what wisdom might it reveal to you? And maybe most importantly, what would it change in your life if you fully accepted the truth that your wholeness includes both the storm and the stillness? Okay, you can drop your reflections there in the comments. And don't just try and say something generic like great video, which I would appreciate, but I want the truth. Right? Tell me the truth. Tell yourself the truth. What role have you been playing that no longer fits you? Because when you see it clearly, when you name it honestly, you have the power over it. This is how it all begins. This is how you stop becoming your fragmented self and you start walking through life full of power, becoming the awakened savage. Okay, and here's what I want you to remember. See, to become a true Jedi, to live with real power, real peace, real purpose and passion, you don't eliminate the dark, you integrate it. You don't destroy your fear, you understand it. You don't suppress your anger, you learn how to transmute it. Don't run from your shame, you face it with compassion. The world doesn't need more people pretending to be enlightened. The world needs more people who are ready to be honest and whole. Because when you can hold both the light and the dark without flinching, when you're no longer at war with yourself, you become undeniable, unshakable, unstoppable. You become trustworthy. You become the kind of man, the kind of leader, the kind of creator who walks into any storm and brings presence, power, and peace with him. And that's what I want for you. This is what this channel is about. This isn't surface level content. This is a sanctuary for the parts of you where the world rarely honours. And today's message, if something hit home and felt real, drop a comment below. What's one part of your shadow you're ready to integrate? Send this video to another brother on the path, someone who's ready to embody more of who he really is. And if you haven't already, please give me a little subscribe, drop a like on the video, it goes a long way. Okay, because this is from a place of grounded, embodied spiritual truth, not hype. Okay, because you're not broken. You're not behind. You're not weak for feeling these dark emotions. God's sake, man, you're human. And that's humanity, all of it. Okay, it's about mastering the light, integrating the dark. And you walk the earth as a powerful creator you were born to be. Okay, I'll see you in the next episode. And listen, I love you. Keep going. Okay, let's do this. I'll have another video for you here. And you can subscribe here. I'll see you on the next one.